easy, I'm Sceptre and you're tuned into another Ableton live tutorial. In today's lesson we're going to be looking at creating percussive layers, how we can add those to breaks that we already have, and also creating drum edits to complement certain sections in the track. So without further ado, let's get into the lesson. Cool, so here we are inside Ableton Live and it's the same project that I used last week, so we're just going to develop it a little bit further. I'll play you just a small section of it to remind you. Cool, so let's take a look at this drum fill here. I've put a couple of loose ones in as kind of placeholders and we're going to develop those a little bit further. So this 2-bar section at the end of the first 16. So a couple of extra snares, slight change to the pattern, but it's not really sounding quite right yet. So what we'll do is I'm going to adjust these snares a little bit first of all. Adding a little bit of extra reverb just so they tail off a little bit more. So I'm going to automate the delay time to match up with when the next snare comes in the next section. Maybe bring it back to the reverse one actually. And then I've got a delay that is what's creating the extra texture on the snare beforehand. So I'll just adjust that a little bit as well. So I've got the delays set on time in milliseconds rather than synced to the beat. I'm going to start it there. Just get rid of this envelope. Just listen to that. Excuse me, sorry. So just creating a little bit more of an interesting tail is what I'm looking for. We can also try a bit of chorus. And even the resonators can be quite interesting. Try some of the presets instead. Sorry. So we can hear that I quite like those additional harmonics that it's creating, but it makes it a little bit quiet, so we'll just pop a utility on there as well. And I think I like the second one more than the first, so maybe we'll keep the second one, but have it dry for the first. And just automate the gain for the first one. Okay, so where these hats come in as the kind of extra percussive layer, I've not started them in the break. I've started them just when the second snare of the first bar of the next 16, it's a mouthful to say, happens. So you don't really notice it in terms of it feeling blocky. It's just added there subtly to increase the energy. So, and then underneath the main snare channel, I've also got a reverb, which reverb and delay, which I might just add that there as well to accent when that snare comes back in. Cool, so that'll probably do for the first one. So we'll move on to the end of the second 16 now. So this one, I've just done a long filter sweep. So for the second snare, where it comes back in, I'm just going to turn that delay off. And increase the reverb. Maybe increase the time as well. And I'm going to leave it quite long because this is a stripped out section where there's no kind of extra pads going on. Cool. So doing these types of filter sweeps, what I've done, which I think I touched on in the previous video, is created a rack where the way that I've mapped the macros means that at 100% on the macro, it still leaves a bandpassed section. And then I've got a reverb on there as well, and some delay, and also the redux bit reduction. So we're going to try and make this filter sweep a little bit more detailed and interesting now as well. So I'm going to add the delay macro to there, put it on a new channel by pressing the little plus, and I'm also going to add the bit crusher. So to my ears, bit crushing actually sounds better on lower frequencies than it does high, so I'm going to switch this sweep so it goes the other way and basically filters down instead of filtering up. So I'll leave the high pass one where it is, but bring the low pass one back down. Sorry, I've got that the wrong way around. I think it's that way. And then I'm going to increase the bit crusher as those frequencies go down. it's creating kind of a strange aliasing. And I'll pop some delay on there as well, but just at the end. So in the next section, I've got this kind of bell, cowbell perk, which is super dry. So I've just used a ProQ to sculpt the sound a little bit, and then a reverb to get it to sit in the mix a bit nicer. And the way that I'm making these sorts of things is taking classic breaks, so one like that BW Souls one, and then chopping those percussive elements out of those and creating my own loops with them. So it doesn't really matter which one of, you know, the many breaks that are available you use. It's just a case of identifying something in that break which you want to take out. And even things like the hats, I take those out of those as well, because they're played by a real drummer. There's often different dynamics between every single hit, so you can create some nice stereo loops with those, whereas a lot of the really, really tight stuff that's used in this style of drum and bass, often it's difficult to get it to have a good feel if you're just using hits that are out of drum machines or even out of samplers to a certain extent. So I think I'm going to adjust these pads down here as well. Maybe add this. No, not that one. And then just having the kick on the offbeat. I'm not sure whether I want that noise sweep in there. Maybe an extra snare in the beginning of there as well. So just listen to it as a whole. So I think really in that gap it wants some kind of drum, some kind of bass edit, but that's not really the purpose of this video, so maybe we'll cover that in a future one. So we'll move on to the last 16. Okay, so we'll bring this back out because obviously we've done that kind of edit previously. So I was playing with a phaser whilst preparing this video, but now listening to it again, I don't think that's what I'm going to use. So let's have a look, see what else we can do to make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe try it with a chorus. Yeah, so I'm going to modulate the chorus amount up there instead, just to change the stereo image. And make sure that I only turn the chorus on at that time as well. So another thing I like to do is, or another thing you can do, is layer extra breaks on top of these sections. So let's have a look. If I have a look at my sample pack, I'm going to want to try and find one that's more dense in terms of percussion, and see what that sounds just layered straight on top of it with a little bit of high pass. So something like that would probably be ideal. Just make sure I get the pattern right. Maybe add that snare at the end. Oops. Let me try getting rid of the end bits. Copying that snare into the reverb channel. Again, I'm going to start the percussion on the snare of the next 16. I think there's something weird going on with one of the filters, maybe. Getting a bit crazy. And then maybe fade this loop out, because I think it stops a little bit too suddenly. I'll try copying some of these pads over. Get rid of that one because it's not actually doing anything. We try pitching one of these up. And add in one of these risers beforehand. Maybe bring this one a little bit earlier as well. Cool. So hopefully we'll just have a listen to it on the whole, but hopefully it's going to work all together. Cool. Yeah, so I think one last thing that we could do is try layering a whole other break on top for this last section, just so it gives it a bit more beef right at the end. Possibly just part of this one. Give that one a go. So I'm not really a fan of the snare. Okay, so what we've got is a little kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, drumsticky kind of layer. Cool. Yeah, so four very simple kind of techniques in order to create variations like that, but hopefully it gives you a few ideas in what to do in your own productions. The drum filter rack that I've made, I will give away in the description. There'll be a link to my website where you can download it, so hopefully that will help you in the process as well. So I'm aware that the video might have come across a little bit disjointed, but I'd rather show you these sorts of things whilst working on them as opposed to kind of reverse engineering what I've done previously. I think it's more helpful to you this way. So let me know in the comments if you do think that or you prefer it the other way around. Thanks again for watching, and I'll have another video up next week. Cheers. drums.